Everybody, it's Dr. Joe here on this Wednesday evening. I hope you are fine wherever you are and you're having a great day. Anyway, it's the weather's getting warmer over here now, so it's not so bad, and so on. So today we're going to be talking about Section 8 housing, and I'm going to try and share with you some of my experiences, my tips, my suggestions, having been a participant in this program. Technically, I'm what they call a housing provider. I'm a housing provider for about 35 years now in the Section 8 program. So I know about this program very well. I know the good, the bad, the ugly. I've had my trials and tribulations participating in this program. And hopefully today I'll share with you some of my experiences, the good, the bad, the ugly, and hopefully provide you with some guidance. And so that way you can be a beneficiary of this. It's a really good program. It's about I think it's $130 billion program. It's the largest rental assistance program in the country. It's funded by the federal government through the HUD, Housing and Urban Development Department, and it's administered locally through what we call public housing authorities at the local level. So since it's a federal program, there is a housing authority in everywhere throughout the United States. So okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. So the first question is going to be, why should landlords like yourself, consider being a part of this program, and why? Well, I'll do the basics first, and then we'll do a deep dive a bit later on. But essentially, the Section 8 program officially is called the Housing Choice Voucher Program, HCVP. Okay. It used to be called Section 8, but they kind of changed it a few years ago to Housing Choice Voucher. It's a federally funded program, like I mentioned before, and it's designed to assist low-income families, to provide or at least live in decent, safe, and sanitary housing. I mean, that's the whole goal here. Many years ago, governments used to own these projects, and where the tenants would live, and they changed it around whereby they wanted to get private housing providers involved, and so they issued. So they want to get out of the project business and give it to the private sector, and so they gave tenants who participate in the program a voucher to find housing, on the local market, private market. So that's essentially the backdrop to this. So as a landlord, you participate in this program, you can make money, and also you can make a difference in people's life if that's important to you. So there is a social component to this thing. But again, a lot of people, all they care about is the money, the financial side. But me, I like the financial side and the social side as well. The fact that I'm making a huge difference in other people's lives. So the government's involvement or the housing authority's involvement is to provide you, the landlord, with timely, consistent rent payments. So if you accept a voucher holder or a person who has a voucher and into your property, then as part of the agreement you have with the public housing authority locally, is that you have what we call a HAP contract. And the HAP contract is a binding contract between you as the housing provider and the housing authority, where they will agree to provide you with monthly rental payments in exchange for you, living up to your responsibilities. So it does give you that consistent payment. And I have never, in nearly 35 years, never, ever, there's never been a time where I've had a voucher holder in my house and I didn't get the rent. So, through good times, bad times, recessions, government shutdowns, there's never been a month ever in over 30 years where I didn't get my money. So it's a very, very stable, very, very reliable income stream as a landlord. And also there's a lot of stereotypes, which I'll talk about in a second, And there are a lot of myths and misconceptions about this program. Usual stuff. They're going to trash my house, collect a rent with a, I don't know, bulletproof vest. You got to go to get your money, guns blazing, you know, crack dealers everywhere. I mean, all the stereotypes you hear about Section 8. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying there's a lot of families out there who don't conform with those stereotypes. And and one thing I like about it is that if you pick the right tenant, which I'll talk about later on, it's a very stable pool of tenants. They long term, they stay a long time. And in fact, I think I've shared with you, my longest tenant, believe it or not, has been with me 27 years. 27 years. And that is unheard of. And I regularly have 15, 20-year tenants. And these are in markets like the DC market where the rents are $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. That is almost unbelievable. If you're going to rent to a private tenant, because most tenants, if they're paying $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month, at some point they're going to say, "This is crazy. Let's go buy our own house." But that's not the case with housing choice voucher tenants, because for the most part, they're not going to be able to afford, especially if you live in an expensive market, to be able to buy these houses. So there's a lot of, and as you know, turnover costs are extremely expensive especially if you are in a single family space. So if you can limit your turnover, then you can, you can reduce your outlays, and therefore the cash flow that you make every month stays in your pocket. That's what I love about this program. And so I'm going to kind of debunk some of the myths associated with this program as I go through today's live stream. So first thing is to understand some of the basics. And the question, I suppose, is, what are some of the fundamentals associated with this program? So at its core, as I said before, it's a government subsidized program, and where the money goes directly to you as a landlord and by the government each month. And the tenant is responsible for the remaining balance. So for example, if the rent is, let's just say, $1,000 a month, okay? Let's just say $5,000 a month, okay? Which is more realistic where we are. I'll make it reasonable. Make it $3,000 a month. So if the rent is $3,000 a month, okay, and you accept a tenant who has a voucher, the housing authority is going to determine what their portion is going to be, what their portion is, and what they're going to pay. So out of the $3,000 a month, the tenant may, based on their income and their family size, the housing authority may determine that they pay let's say $800. That make it $500, which is more realistic. So out of the $3,000, the tenant is responsible for $500, which means that every month $2,500 is paid by the housing authority to you. So that money is guaranteed, the $2,500, and you're responsible for collecting that $500 balance from the tenant. I hope everybody understands that. So the assumption is that the rent is $3,000. Out of that $3,000, $500 is paid by the tenant, which means that $2,500 is being paid by the housing authority. That money is guaranteed, is going to hit your account come what may. Bad times, good times, hurricanes, whatever it is hitting your account on the 1st or the 2nd or the 3rd, but it's hitting your account early in the month, guaranteed. Okay. And that's what I like about it. I've been through 5 real estate cycles, and I've been through some cycles, and bad times are not good. You don't want to be the guy standing up when the music stops. It's not pretty. Downturns. I've been through 5 of these things. And during downturns, people tend to lose their jobs. And if they lose their jobs, you may not get your rent. At least with the voucher holders, if they lose their job, your money is still coming in. In fact, it's even better than that. If they lose their jobs, then their income goes down, which means that they can go to the housing authority and request a reduction in their portion. So in the example I just cited, if the tenant's portion is $500, and that's based on their income. So if their income goes down, their portion may go down to $250. which means that the government's portion goes up to $2,750. I mean, the net rent is still the same, $3,000, but the proportion, between the housing authority and the tenant changes. Likewise, if the tenant's income goes up, then their portion is going to go up as well. So I hope that makes sense. So from a financial risk standpoint, it's very good for the landlord. Now, they do, as part of the process program anyway, require that your house meets certain standards in terms of quality condition. They call that housing quality standard, HQS. So before the tenant moves in, they have to do an inspection to make sure it conforms to HUD guidelines, and that usually focuses more on the health and safety. So there's health and safety, inspections that take place, and then every year or once every 2 years, the property gets inspected again. So there's some inspections that takes place, as part of being a participant in the program. But the good thing I like about it is that there's a high demand for, there's a lot of voucher holders out there who are having difficulty finding housing. And what I found is that, I don't know how to say this politically correct, but I found that there's a lot of families that they're tired of living in crappy houses in crappy neighborhoods and renting from crappy landlords. I mean, I don't know how else better to say that. They're just tired of that stuff. I mean, they know slumlords. They're tired of it. They want to live in a decent house in a decent area and rent from a decent landlord. That's what I found, and that was the aha moment for me anyway. And there's a lot of families out there who are just yearning for that opportunity. But unfortunately, a lot of landlords, when they hear the word Section 8, they don't want to rent to them because, the stereotypes and things like that. So I think that if you're savvy, if you're smart and you figure this thing out, it's really a really good program. And it's definitely something that you may want to consider as part of your, your way moving forward. So let's talk about some action items that you can do based on just the basics, which I've just shared with you. I'm going to do a lot of action items in this discussion today. I think it's important that you understand some of the basics associated with Section 8. Things like, familiarize yourself with the process locally. How do they determine the rents, and who's the housing authority, and so on. Prepare to understand what the housing quality standards are, what the inspectors look for, and also, if you got a property, how are you going to market to attract voucher holders? These are some of the action items based on some of the basics I just talked about. So let me talk about debunking some of the myths associated with this program. I think I kind of shared some of those things. So the common misconceptions, as I said before, is that a lot of these tenants are going to destroy your house. A lot of these houses are in crappy neighborhoods. A lot of these tenants don't take pride in their home. They're going to trash your house. Dealing with the housing authorities, the constant bureaucracy, it's just a headache. There's lots of red tape. All the houses, if you got a good house in a good area, you're not going to attract, there's no need to attract voucher holders because they're going to destroy it. So a lot of landlords tend to focus on getting houses in the cheapest part of town where they can maximize their cash flow. And, some of these quote unquote Section 8 neighborhoods, that's where the dumping ground is for a lot of these voucher tenants. And a lot of these they're just tired of those living in those crappy neighborhoods, high crime neighborhoods, where the kids are not safe and the family's not safe, and so on. I mean, some of the stories I hear when, as part of my screening process, it's very sad. One story that comes to mind is that I had because I do a home visit as part of my inspection process. I recall speaking to one of the prospective tenants of mine. I went to the home to see how she keeps the house immaculate, spotless. And she was telling me that essentially every day she's worried that her kids will not come home. They'll get shot dead on the way home from school. That's the concern that she has every day just because of the neighborhood that she's living in. and she promised me that if I was to give her a chance to rent my house, I would never regret it. So these are the kind of stories I hear, and to me, that means it's a business opportunity for savvy investors like you and I. So, so there's a lot of myths, a lot of stereotypes of this program, but once you master it, and it's really good. Now the question is going to be, how do you master this thing? Obviously, I don't have enough time to tell you all the details today, but obviously, why recreate the wheel? I will provide more opportunities to drill down further and at future dates. But I wanted to kind of just give you at least some concepts about that. Another misconception is that the rents that the housing authority pays is next to nothing. That is not always the case. In some plots, obviously it depends on the area that you're in, but many times that they pay market rents. And sometimes they even pay above market rents. Yes, there are situations where they pay below market, but they are supposed to pay market rents for the properties. And once you understand this program, you may be able to, in some situations, get even above market rents for your property. So, you don't have to sacrifice cash flow. It's just that there's, once you understand, you can, use the program to your benefit. So some of the action items associated with some of the debunking the myths, investigate, look into your misconceptions of the program, explore the different neighborhoods where you are, and contact your housing authority to analyze the rents that they pay and how do they determine the rents. Is it zip code based? Is it neighborhood based? How do they determine the rents that they pay for tenants in your area? So the next thing I want to talk about is financial planning, money. Okay, and so I suppose the issue here is how can landlords like you and I optimize the program, financially to our benefit? And as we know, financial planning is absolutely key as investors. It's all, for a lot of people, it's all about the money. And, and what I like about this is that the guaranteed rent portion is very important. As I said before, I've been through 5 cycles where the economy has tanked or gone down. And it's always good to know that you have every month a certain portion coming in. Also, if you have rent to market renters and they don't pay you for whatever reason, then you get nothing for that month. However, with a voucher holder, at least the tenant's portion at least the housing authority's portion, you're going to get that. So there is a certain level of stability in financially, and you can plan for that each month, regardless of the economic downturn that we're in, and regardless of what's going on in the economy. So the other thing is, as I said to you before, as a long-time landlord, I know that the biggest expense that you and I encounter as landlords is turnover. And turnover can wipe out all your profits. And if you can't figure a way to minimize turnover, I can tell you this: you're not going to make any money because you don't. Each turnover is going to cost you at least 1 month, possibly 2 or 3 months lost income. So if your rent is $3,000 a month, each turnover is going to, after all is said and done, is going to run you around $6,000 to $9,000, and that wipes out all the profits that you've made in cash flow for several years. So if you can't control that, I'm telling you, you make no money. Now we can debate that, but that's just the way it is. And a lot of people don't understand that. They think that, oh, all I got to do to make more cash flow is to increase the rents. No, you make more cash flow by reducing your expenses, and your biggest expense is turnover and vacancies. So anyway, so the thing is that financially, if you can minimize your turnover cost, then most of that cash flow can stay in your pocket. And that's what I like about the Section 8 program, is that, you tend to, as I said before earlier on, you tend to get people, or you can, not always, depends on you as a landlord and how you screen and select and manage the tenant relationship. You can generally get more tenants that stay longer. So you get less turnovers and so on. But yes, you have to put up with the inspections, and you have to understand what the inspector is looking for. And sometimes there's damage caused by the tenant, which you as a landlord are requested or required to take care of. But again, that's understanding the program and so on. So there are some upfront costs associated with getting this property, but over the long haul, it makes sense, especially if you're in an appreciating market. So we're in an appreciating market here in Washington, D.C., for example. And I mean, the way it works is that whenever you buy, it's always expensive at that time. So I recall the first house I bought, believe it or not, you won't believe this, I bought this house for $47,000 in Washington, D.C. This is 37 years ago. And when I bought that house, people were saying I was paying too much. Okay, 47,000. So 10 years later, that house is worth 140. 10 years later, it's worth 340. Now it's this $700,000, $800,000 neighborhood. So now I say that not to brag, because that's not the point. The point is that if you live in an appreciating market, prices tend to go up over time. But at the time when you buy it, it's expensive. Like you're buying something today, it's expensive. I get it. But 5, 10, 15 years later, you look back and say, my God, what was I thinking? I wish I bought this house or that house when it was, quote, cheap. So that's just the way it is. It's always expensive. And for most part, it's not going to get any cheaper, especially if you play over the long haul. So the issue is, how do you get in? And once you're in, how do you stay in and not lose your shirts or get so frustrated that you decide to sell this house? And that's where the systems come in. That's knowing how to select tenants, how to screen tenants, how to manage the tenant relationships once they're in the home. All these things become very, very important. And so again, we don't have time to go into much detail into all the details about all this, because that's a whole nother session in itself. It's probably, I could spend a week drilling down on this stuff, but I just want to give you a high level. From a financial standpoint, it does make a lot of sense to buy these houses, to hold on to these houses. It builds wealth. You get the benefits of real estate from a tax standpoint, cash flow standpoint, equity buildup, generational wealth buildup. All these are the benefits of owning real estate. And my position is that, if you want to build wealth, real estate has been proven as a vehicle to, to build generation wealth and all the benefits associated with that. So you have to know how to buy this stuff. And once you buy it, you got to know how to keep it. And so on. I believe that, Section 8 program, participating in the Section 8 program is definitely the way to go. From a tax standpoint, it's a business. So, there are tax benefits associated with a real estate investor. But again, I'm not an accountant, so you want to speak to your tax advisor on how it's going to impact you. So what are some of the action items from a financial standpoint, or financial management standpoint, I suppose, is, before you buy a house, or, look at your portfolio, develop what we call a financial model for your investments, and also look into the tax benefits and tax implications of owning real estate, the financial benefits. It's to me, it's not debatable. I mean, I have these debates with my financial planner. I mean, they're always trying to get me to buy more securities and stocks and all this kind of stuff, because this guy, he doesn't really understand real estate. I don't really understand stocks as well, but I do know this is that, there's a dire shortage of housing. I do know this. There's a lot of tenants out there who are looking for quality products, quality housing in quality neighborhoods, and they desire to rent from quality landlords. That is not going to change through good times and bad times. It's a given. I think Jeff Bezos was saying that, was that if you're going to go to a business, go to a business where the fundamentals are just not going to change. And the fundamentals are, everyone's going to need housing. Yes. However, I think that there's a great demand for quality houses in quality areas and rented from tenants are looking for quality housing in quality areas and looking to rent from quality landlords. That to me is fundamental. That is not going to change regardless. No tenants aren't going to tell you, I'm looking for a crappy house in a crappy area. Yes, they're not going to tell you that. So you deal with the fundamentals, and then you can wrap a business around it. And these are the fundamentals. It's those things you understand who the customer is, what are they looking for, what are they not looking for, where they want to live, where they don't want to live, who do they want to rent from, who they don't want to. I mean, these are the fundamentals. And once you take the time to understand those fundamentals, you can then start developing a business around it. And that's essentially that's my take, and it's a time-tested formula. It's not going to change, fads come and go. And today's fad may be crypto. Tomorrow's fad could be eBay, could be, whatever, Amway or whatever. But the fundamentals don't change. Just like I think Jeff Bezos was saying, people aren't going to say, I want less choices. That's why he has the Amazon store where it has everything. He doesn't feel that there's going to be a situation where people are going to say to him, I want less choices. People aren't going to tell him, I want my stuff delivered in a longer time, and so on. So certain fundamentals that don't change. And I believe that from a housing standpoint, which is the business we're in, if you focus on the fundamentals, you can then start developing the business case around it. Anyway, I have a business background, as you know, so I see things maybe slightly different than many other people. Anyway, we're going to have a Q&A session very shortly. So if you've got some questions, please put them in the chat box, and I'm going to get around to it very shortly, and so on. Okay, let's talk about the next thing, which is navigating challenges. Challenges, you're not going to avoid them. They're always going to be there. So the issue is going to be, what are the challenges as a Section 8 landlord or a landlord participating in the Section 8 program? And how do you deal with some of those challenges that you're likely to face? So, I've talked about some of the benefits, but there are obviously challenges. And I've been through pretty much every scenario you can think of. There aren't a whole lot of scenarios. I was talking to one lady yesterday, and I hadn't been through her scenario. She had a tenant who was in jail right now, and she's trying to, get them out of the house or something while they're in jail. So I haven't ran through that scenario, but I've been through pretty much everything else. I've had tenants from hell, tenants from heaven. I've had, people lie to me, people trying to rip me off. And so I've been through it all. It's an amazing experience. Anyway, some of the challenges. First thing is that you have the bureaucracy you have to deal with. You're going to have to deal with the housing authority, the local housing authority, wherever you are. It's a government entity, and so with any bureaucracy, there are some red tapes that you have to. It's relationship based. It's knowing how it works. It can be very frustrating because sometimes you're dealing with people who are overworked and underpaid, and a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of red tapes you have to go through. There's inspections you have to go through. You have to understand the process. These are some of the challenges in terms of dealing with the bureaucracy. You got to know who your housing authority is. How do they determine their rents? And who are the key players in here? You got inspectors, you got caseworkers, you got administrators, you got a whole bunch of people on the government side or the bureaucrat that you have to navigate, and you have to understand the world from their perspective, because if you can understand the world from their perspective, then you have a better idea of how to actually deal with them, I suppose, and work with them. And but if you take the time, which is what I've done, it definitely is not so daunting. That's the housing authority side. Now there's the other challenges on the tenant side. You're gonna have to deal with tenants, whether you like it or not. If you're a housing provider, if you're a landlord, you're gonna have to deal with tenants. So whenever you deal with tenants, you're gonna have the good, bad, and ugly tenants. You're gonna have to deal with the court system. Hopefully you don't, but you probably will. You're gonna have to deal with some difficult tenants. I've had my fair share of difficult tenants. You know, you're going to have to deal with, you know, repairs and maintenance, and you're going to have to deal with tenant screening. You got to have a system for that. You got to understand the fair housing laws wherever you are, both federally, locally, and state level. You got to, you're responsible for the property. So if something goes wrong, it's your responsibility to fix it and repair, make repairs. You got to be compliant with housing standards and fair housing laws, and so on. So these are some of the challenges that you're going to have to deal with as a housing provider, whether you deal with Section 8 or not. But there are some nuances with the Section 8 program that you have to deal with that you don't have to deal with if you were working or renting to market renters. So there are some challenges, but I believe that, you know, we're all savvy. We can figure it out. We can understand. It's not too overbearing, over intimidating. We can figure it out. And I think that these challenges can be overcome, and you know, and so on. So it is what it is. You know, you know, these are, if you're going to enter the court, as they said, you better know the rules of the game. So educating yourself is, I think, is the key about the realities and the benefits. And also the other thing is to network with other landlords, other people who are seasoned, who are experienced, and therefore you learn from their experiences, and so on. So I think that challenges can be overcome. There are people out there who have solved the same problem that you are now encountering, and therefore there's no need to recreate the wheel. As the saying goes, a wise man learns from his mistakes, but a genius learns from other people's mistakes. So you need to learn from other people's mistakes rather than learn from your mistakes. And that way you can get to where you need to go to a lot faster, and that you become a genius itself. So what are some of the action items associated with challenges? Building a working relationship with your local housing authority. You know, really put down or develop a fair or thorough screening process. And just stay informed about the Section 8 program, the regulations, and make the compliance requirements and things like that. And number 5, I got to kind of wrap this up because we're getting 7:33. Building a successful portfolio. I think it's important to talk about that. How do you build a successful portfolio? And how comes that there's some landlords out there who've been able to you know, work Section 8 to their benefits? How is it that some landlords have been able to develop a portfolio? How did these guys or girls do this? And so on. So that's the issue. And because there are people who are mastering this, and so on. So I think building a successful portfolio requires a strategic approach. And there are risks, and you have to balance the risk against the rewards. You know, there are different property types. There are multifamily, single family, condos that you can choose. You can buy in A, B, C, D, E neighborhoods. You know, that's the choices that you make. And, you know, you could focus in one particular market, or you can sort of have a diverse portfolio in different markets. These are choices. And, you know, so these are some of the things that successful landlords that participate in the program. From my perspective, I think one of the key success factors for me is just understanding who you're trying to attract as a tenant, as a customer. Okay, who is your ideal tenant? And my perspective, my ideal tenant, which what I call a tier 1 tenant, is a tenant that's going to pay me the rent. Okay, take care of my property. Okay, no drama. Okay, and looking for a tenant that's going to stay a long time. So that's my ideal tenant. Now, I don't know who your ideal tenant is, but that's my ideal tenant. Maybe you want the tenant who doesn't pay you. Maybe you don't want it. Maybe you want the tenant who's going to give you nonstop drama. Maybe you want the tenant that's going to trash your house and give you nonstop nightmares. You know, maybe you want tenants that just stay a few months or a few weeks and leave again. Maybe that's what you want, and that's okay. That's not what I want anyway. So I know I start off from who do I want, and therefore I work backwards from there. How can I differentiate myself from my competition so I can appeal to those kind of people? And I work it from that perspective because it's a business, and every business has customers, and successful businesses know what their customers are looking for, and they wrap their entire product around that. They wrap the whole business model around that. This is just business 101. And in the housing providing business, your customer is your tenant. Okay, the tenant is your customer, sorry. And a lot of landlords, they don't see it that way. They just see the tenants as a means to get paid. They don't want to see them. They don't want to hear from them. All they want is their money. That's the mindset of most landlords, especially Section 8 landlords. And that's the reason why they have a lot of problems. They just take it from the wrong perspective. I took it from a different perspective, and I've been able to take the time and effort to understand this thing such that hopefully, I work it to my favor. Stay informed. Things change. Regulations change. The laws change, and you need to stay on top of that. You need to network with other landlords who are successfully doing this. That's another way to become successful yourself. And and I think effective property management, because it is a long game. I think I've done some sessions on how I'm able to get 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 27-year tenants. It is not by accident. It's by a calculated strategy. And, again, successful, investors, buy and hold investors anyway, they understand that. And these are some of the things that you want to do. So regular maintenance is also another thing. Customer satisfaction is important. And and making sure that you focus on the needs of your client, the tenant, and understanding the financial aspects of your business, cash flow, taxation, leveraging the property, and so on. I mean, I got to the point whereby, after a while, as the property values increases, you can then take the equity from the property and then either get a home equity line, or you can do a cash out refinance and buy more properties. So one property starts buying more properties and kind of give you a multiplying effect. Okay, so what are the action items here in terms of successful research and identify potential opportunities, potential markets that you may want to invest in, and also network with more experienced, seasoned investors. And hopefully you can learn from their experiences as well. And finally, I want to talk about some of the long-term strategies. Hopefully today's session was good. Let me know. Give me some thumbs up, some feedback. We're going to go to Q&A in a second. So, okay, what long-term strategies should landlords adopt for success in the Section 8 program? I take a long-term view. At the end of the day, if you take a long-term view, you're going to focus on certain things like sustainability and stability. Okay, this involves having high standards of your property, high standards in terms of the tenants that you deal with, high standards in terms of your expectations from your tenant, and also high standards from what they expect from you. When I screen my tenant as part of the screening process, I tell them, I mean, you won't believe this, I tell them, I'm looking for the world's greatest tenant. The world's greatest tenant. That's what I'm looking for. And I've told you what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone that's going to pay the rent, take care of the property, pleasant to deal with, and looking to stay a long time. That's what I tell them. Okay, with a straight face. I said, that's what I'm looking for, the world's greatest tenant. Now, if that's you, then you'll love renting from me because I'm the world's greatest landlord. Okay, I take care of my properties. I'm pleasant to deal with. Most of my tenants stay a long time. That's music to the ears of a lot of these tenants. They're just yearning for a quality landlord. And that's what I'm looking for. So I say that all that. I set expectations in terms of what I expect from them, and also let them know what they can expect from me. This is a long-term game. I'm not interested in 1-year tenants generally. I'm looking for 5, 10, 15, 20-year tenants. And, so long-term strategies is that customer service, things like property maintenance is very, very important. Reaching out to tenants on a regular basis is important. Customer service is very important. Prompt repairs is very important. Developing strong relationships with the tenants is critical. At the end of the day, we're dealing with human beings. We're not dealing with quote unquote doors, as some of these investors are bragging about. I got 50 doors, I got 100 doors, I got 10,000 doors. No, we're dealing with human beings. They're not doors; they're human beings. I know it's pretty radical, but if you see people as doors, you're going to treat them that way. If you see them as human beings, you're going to treat them differently. That's how I see them. These are not doors. These are human beings. They got families. They got expectations. They're yearning for the same things, and that I'm looking for, and and I treat them with respect and courtesy, and and so on. So these are some of the reasons why they stay a long time. But long-term success is all about trying to minimize turnover. And some of those things which I shared with you, I think is important for you. Now, to me, I like to make money, obviously. But I also, I really enjoy the fact that I'm making a difference in other people's lives. Speaking to one of my tenants a few months ago, just by living in my home in a better house in a better area, their kids have gone to better schools. Some of them go to college. Some of them got full scholarships to go to college. You've changed the trajectory of people's lives. It's just amazing what you can do, the impact you can have. And if you try to create these win-win scenarios, if you try to make money but also do good, I love it. I love this business. I love being a landlord to Section 8 programs, tenants. How about that? I love being a landlord for Section 8 tenants. Yeah, it's great, and so on. Anyway, in conclusion, so what we're going to do, we'll wrap this up. It's a unique opportunity. The Housing Choice Voucher Program, Section 8 program. It's a vehicle for stable rental income. You can make a contribution to other people's lives. You can make money. You can build generational wealth, and but you need to understand the intricacies of this program, its potential. And there's stability in terms of knowing that every month your money is going to come in, guaranteed income. That's very, very important. It's a buffer against recessions and downturns and market risk. You can reduce risks. So I love it. I think it's great, and I highly recommend that you consider it. Now, I talked a lot. There's a lot I can continue with, but I need to transition over to the Q&A. So let's go to the Q&A session in a few seconds. So if you got some questions, please put them in the chat box. I'm going to try to get to them. If you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me at joe@joeasamoah.com, joe@joeasamoah.com. And I know I've covered a lot. I know you may have a lot of questions. I'm going to try to answer as many as I can in the next 15 minutes. But if you do want to, if you feel that I can help you on a one-on-one scenario or situation, you may have some issues or questions or problems or challenges that you're experiencing. I do now. I've set up a mechanism whereby you can schedule one-on-one meetings with me. You do have to pay. Full disclosure, it's not free. It's $175 for 1 hour, which is very reasonable. But you'll have my undivided attention. I'd like to get an understanding of your situation, and that way I can provide you with some really valuable information. I've had several of these and one-on-ones. They're working out really, really well. It's a chance for me to get to know you. It's a chance for you to get to know me. And it's a chance for me to help you on your journey, wherever you are. If anything to do with real estate, you can leverage my 35 years worth of experience. So go to my website, www.joeasamoah.com, www.joeasamoah.com. There's a button. I think you have to scroll a little bit. It's called Ask Dr. Joe. Ask Dr. Joe. Press that button, and you can schedule 1 hour with me at your convenience. I do have some slots and so on. So hopefully I'll speak to you one-on-one. But in the meantime, let's get down to business and get some questions. Your questions. I'll try to answer some of these questions. Intellectual conversation with BJ. Hey, Dr. Joe. Tuning in from DC. Okay, welcome. Johnny H, happy Wednesday. Hey, how you doing, Johnny? Livio Delani, hi, Dr. Joe. Good. It looks like everyone's in the house. Janice is on the fire. Fernando, that's awesome. Okay, Fernando. Are you able to do background credit checks for voucher? Yes, you can. It's the same screening process that you normally go through with market renters. You don't have to select anybody. I don't select anybody. I'm trying to get the diamond into the rough. And the way to get your diamond into the rough is to do screening. And my take is that 80% of your problems as a landlord, as a housing provider, you just got the wrong person in your house. That's it. And some people are just the wrong person in your house. And how do you avoid that? You avoid that through screening. I have a very thorough screening process. It's extremely thorough. And because I'm trying to weed the bad from the good. And I take it from me, it is better to have a place empty than it is to have the wrong person in your house, especially if you live in a tenant-friendly jurisdiction like we are living in. So yes, you can. Real estate won't get cheaper. It definitely will not. That's what I'm saying. It's always expensive. It's expensive today, but I can guarantee you the one thing, folks. 10 years from now, you were kicking yourself, thinking, "My God, if only I bought in 2024 when it was cheap." That's just the way it plays out. So you just need to get in. Hello, Get Lobster from Texas. How you doing, man? Intellectual conversation with BJ. Warren Buffett says that he doesn't invest in anything he doesn't understand. Well, I understand real estate. I think most people understand the notion of real estate. It is not complicated at all. It's very, very simple, and most people get it. Okay, especially if you own a house for more than the last 10 years. People get it. You buy an asset, hold on to that asset. You're going to get a mortgage, which means you're going to have to pay somebody the money that you borrowed. Okay, in order to pay that money, you get a tenant. Tenant pays you rent. For the luxury of staying in your home, you take that money, pay your expenses, and you pocket the difference. Over time, the asset increases in value. It's very, very simple. Most people understand. It's not rocket science. People don't have to scratch their head about the notion of real estate. It's very simple. And the bottom line is most of the wealth created in the United States is through owning assets like real estate. So that's just the bottom line. If you want to build wealth, if you want to build up your net worth, most people do it through real estate. That's just the way it is. Okay, let's have a look. Dr. Joe, I have a voucher tenant, rapid rehousing, okay? And his lease is for 2 people, and he has moved in his 9 kids, okay? He is in breach of, but his lease is up soon. Should I wait it out or evict? Oh, boy, that's a good one. Okay, let's have a look. So let me answer this question. I have a voucher. So he's got a tenant. Now, in D.C., they have lots of different programs. One of them is called rapid rehousing. It's rapid rehousing, the program to usually people who are homeless or in shelters. The government gives them a voucher, a temporary voucher to rent. So rather than being a homeless shelter or on the streets, the government pays for them to be housed by a private landlord. So in this person's case, he had a person who he rented it to, leased out the property for 2 people, and now he has moved in 9 kids. So it's supposed to be 2 people. There are 9 or 11 people in the house. Okay, so obviously he's in breach of his lease. So it's up to you. I mean, evicting someone in DC is not going to be easy. It's not. It's a very pro-tenant jurisdiction, and the time it's going to take you to evict the tenant, it could be lengthy. But they're breaking the lease, and so therefore, to a certain extent, you have to use your judgment. You're probably getting your money, but they're breaking the lease. So what do you do? I would say it depends on the situation. One of the things I've learned in real estate as a landlord is that you pick your battles, and so the question is this a battle that you want to pick? If they're destroying your house, causing mayhem, and being a nuisance to neighbors, neighborhood, or whatever it is, then maybe it is worthwhile to evict them. If they're taking care of your property, they're respectful, and all the other stuff, and there's no drama going on, and they're taking care of your house, then maybe, I don't know, they're breaking the law technically. You do have the right to evict them technically, but is that a battle you want to take? It's up to you. I say just pick your battles. You know the situation better than I do. It sounds like it's a pretty complicated situation. This could be a situation to intellect BJ, I suppose, where we could do a one-on-one, because I've been through this before, and I think that you've got some decisions that you have to make, and you got some tough choices that you may have to decide on. And I've been through those tough scenarios, so I think that could be a candidate for a one-on-one, BJ. So check, if you feel that you want that one-on-one, please reach out to me. Okay, Fang. Hi, Dr. Joe. How do you pick a good market for Section 8? I live in an expensive area that forces me to invest far away, and I don't know what to look for to decide a good market for Section 8. Thank you. Good question, Fang. What's the time? 7:50. Oh my goodness, we got so many questions. I think I'm gonna have to do a part 2 for this thing, because I've only got about 3 or 4 minutes left. How do you pick a good market? Well, I live in the Washington, D.C. area. It's an expensive market as well. And I'm not interested in buying in houses areas. I don't, it's far away. I just like to buy local. So I had to figure out how to make this work in this market where I'm in. And so I just take the time. So wherever you are, Fang, there are people out there who are playing this game and winning. There are successful real estate investors that are doing Section 8 wherever you are, whichever market you're in. There are people already winning. The issue is, what are they doing that's making them win? And I think that if you take the time to find these people and learn from them, I mean, if you're in the Washington, D.C. area, I mean, I know how to make this thing work for you. So, if you're interested in the Washington, D.C. market, I mean, I'm as good as anybody to talk to, and I can tell you how it works and how I use it, how I've been able to leverage this program to buy houses and get cash flow in areas where you can't buy anything over here for less than $500,000, nothing. And that $500,000 probably needs a lot of work. So that's just the way we are here. But I've been able to figure out how to make it work and still get cash flow and so on. So I think the same thing can happen. You don't have to go to the other side of the country. You don't have to go long distance. You are where you are. And the issue is, how do you make it work where you are? I think there's a story, the Acres of Diamonds. The grass is always greener on the other side somewhere else, until you get there. And then you realize, it's the same old. There's no nirvana. You have to create your own opportunities wherever you are. And that's how I see it anyway. Good question, though. Laquita, how often do you visit your property with tenants residing there? Initially, it's every 3 months for the first year. And then after that, once I get to know the tenants and how they keep the home, you can scale back on that one. Zach, can you go over getting a rent increase on it? Can you go over getting a rent increase on an existing tenant? Yes. Depending on where you are, you can request a rent increase. So you have to understand how they determine rent increases where you are. So in the Washington, D.C., you have to petition the housing authority. You have to give the tenant notice, 60 days or 30 days, depending on where you are. And then you give them notice, you apply, you submit that information to the housing authority. They review it. They may approve it, they may deny it, or they may counter your increase, and so on. So that's at a high level. Each particular jurisdiction will have their own different rules. But at a high level, typically you have to give notice to your tenant. You then have to inform the housing authority. You have to be in good standing with the housing authority. And your rent that you're asking has to be within the fair market rent guidelines. And, if it does, then they may approve it. If it doesn't, they will definitely not approve it, or they may counter your increase. So you may be asking for $100. They may counter and say, well, we can offer you $50. And then it's, many times it's take it or leave it, or you can do some more haggling there. How is the home inspection process? Thanks for today's lesson. They have what we call housing quality standards. It's a process where they check for mainly health and safety. They check all the doors, the windows, the outlets, the plumbing, the electrical, smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors. They check to make sure that There's egress, forms of egress, to make sure that the bedrooms are legal. There's a whole bunch of stuff that they check. So before an inspection, I usually go through the property to make, especially if it's new, to make sure that it's going to pass. And if it's a tenant's in the house, then I usually, let the tenants know that there's going to be an inspection, and we work something out for them to incentivize. I incentivize them to pass. Shayna, how you doing? Hope all is well on your side. Shayna Bagley, nice talking to you. Hope all is well with you anyway. Livio, do you believe we should be investing in this current market? Dark clouds ahead in the economy. Look, the stars are never aligned. You just buy. If you take a long-term view of these things, the best time to buy is now. Well, in fact, the best time to buy was yesterday or 10 years ago. But that's too late. So the best time to buy is today, especially if you have a long-term view. Now, if you have a short-term view, maybe there's the clouds that are definitely coming. And but at some point, the clouds will go away. We'll go through different market cycles, and it is what it is. So the best time to buy is now. How does a newbie proceed with a good off-market pack? I'm going to have to wrap this up because it's 8 o'clock. We've had a lot of good questions. So if you felt that today was good, please, maybe, we can do another session on Section 8. Or I may just do another session just on questions. Ask Dr. Joe. And so on. So we got a lot of questions here. I've got no chance of getting to them. So we're going to have to wrap it up because it's 8 o'clock. And but then before I wrap it up, I just want to let you know that if there's anything I can do, please feel free to reach out to me, joe@joeasamoah.com, joe@joeasamoah.com. And if you feel that I can be of assistance to you, if you got a real estate related question or problem or situation where you feel that I can help you, we can schedule a one-on-one with me. Go to my website, www.joeasamoah.com, and scroll down. You'll see Ask Dr. Joe. Ask Dr. Joe. Press the button, and you can then schedule a one-on-one with me. There is a fee, it's $175 for an hour, full disclosure. But for everyone that's done it, I've had quite a few people. The value I provided is a multiple of that. So my goal, just the way I am, if you spend $1 with me, my goal is to get you $2 or $3 back. So in the scheme of things, $175 is definitely value well spent, especially if you have a situation whereby it's racking your brain and stressing you out. And we all go through that. I've been through 35 years of that. So leverage my skills, leverage my experiences. There's no need to recreate the wheel. So on behalf of myself, I hope today's session was a good session. I think I just can't get through all the questions. We've got a lot of questions today. So maybe we'll do a separate session just on Q&A. So again, see me. I'll see you next Wednesday. We'll have another different topic, and I'll probably do another Section 8 at another time. And so on. So until next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time, have a great evening. Take care. Bye for now.